That was the 4-year show?
4-year show. Your first live on Podbean. 4-year
Yeah.
show, January 13th, 2020. I butt dialed you at work.
What?
Yeah, yeah.
I said,
I went back and listened to it.
you remember times and dates better than I do.
No, I didn't remember the time and date. I scrolled back in your podcast feed, and I'm like, oh, I think it's probably this one. It looks like about the right date. And I listened to it, and yeah, about 20 minutes, I crashed pans around and then did lovely plug for Hooks, Rubs, and Spices.
So, I mean, is that how our first interaction was, or you
That
crashed
was
my live,
literally,
or I crashed your live?
I walked into your live
Oh,
and
yeah.
accidentally called you, and that was our first interaction.
Wow. So it's almost been a year then, because
Almost 2, January 2020. So we're going up to 2022. So I guess our first interaction was damn near 2 years ago.
that's fuck. My mind is blown right now. I gotta take my glasses off.
I think Triple H was still an active wrestler back when we first met.
Oh, that's crazy. So, I had a damn. You remember more than I do. So I had a guest on with me. I had Jody B, I think, right?
I was still brand new to your feed, and I have no idea who the other caller was. I think it might have been Jody B, though.
Yeah.
You had someone call in, wish you happy 4 years.
Yeah. Oh man, this is crazy.
Yeah, man.
It's just blowing my mind. It's just like time keeps on slipping into the future.
Yes, the never-ending cycle of life.
Yeah. Well, I got a fancy intro that I normally do, so I'm gonna kick that. I'm gonna introduce you, and then we'll just continue doing what we was doing. You doing it from your phone? You doing the things from your phone? Uh-oh. You just went mute.
Oh, there we go. I'll figure it out.
There you are. You're here. All right. Intro. What up, everybody? This your boy B Rob, and I'm back with another edition of the Random Realms with Rob podcast. First and foremost, I'd like to thank you, the listener, for coming back each and every week, or however you listen to podcasts. If you're a first-time listener, I'd like to thank you oh so much for giving my show a try. And if anybody recommended you to me, go ahead and reach over and get that person a crisp high five. But if you want to be socially cautious and you don't want to worry about germs and COVID and whatever else that may ail you, pick up your social media app of choice and send them a well-crafted DM telling them thank you for recommending you to me. And speaking of social media, you can find the Random Ramblings with Rob on various social media platforms to include Twitter at 3R Show, Instagram at the 3R Show, and if you've been listening to a little show called the RBR Weekly Wrestling Talk, they just inducted me as ironically enough, the third member of their Fatal Four. So I am a host on the RBR Weekly Wrestling Talk. If you want to hear me talk about wrestling and other shenanigans, you can hear me over that way too. And for anything that I may have forgotten to mention, you can go to randomrob.com and find all that stuff, to include the sponsor, Hooks, Rubs, and Spices. You can get 15% off your order if you use promo code RANDOM on hooksrub.com. Get some spice in your life, baby. Put some of that shit on all your food and make it delicious. Now, I done used my Ace Ventura-like breathing techniques to belt out all that intro. I have a guest, if you hadn't seen already, if you're watching this visually. But we was just talking just a couple moments ago about how we had our first interaction and how it was just about 2 years ago that this happened, all because of a butt dial. We're sitting right here talking to each other and about to get into some shenanigans. But joining, so what was it before? Because you had a little podcast, and please don't take any disrespect when I say little podcast.
Oh, I don't.
You had a podcast. It was random something, because it was just kind of like, and then now it's Stinky Dad.
Oh, well, yeah, lots changed over the last couple of years. So we first met, I literally started podcasting 2 weeks before. And so I'd been on Podbean because, like Google, hey, how do I start a podcast? And then I up on Podbean. So then I seen like 4 years of random. I'm like, well, that looks kind of cool. So I clicked on that, just listening at work. Next thing you know, it's like phone ringing, and I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? And you're like, hello, Glenn? And I'm like, oh, sorry, I accidentally called. All right. And so, yeah, the podcast at the time, I was calling it Random Guy Pod, I think at the
Yeah.
time, because I'm like, I want to talk sports. Maybe I'll talk food. Maybe I'll talk something else,
Mhm.
And so I call it random or whatever. And then it turned into Random Couple Show, which I did with my ex-girlfriend. And now I have more podcasts that I know what to do with.
So not only are you doing the one that you have solo or whatever, you got more than one podcast?
I'm currently at 4 active ones, plus one that my kid does. Yeah, yeah.
You sound like me early on when I first started. It's just like, I don't
Well, I
know.
probably,
And maybe you
I
can
pro-
kind of, give me your insights on it. When I first started or whatever, even that first year or the first 2 years or whatnot, which you're in that realm, it's like I was enjoying podcasting so much and just the interactions with people or whatever that I was like, well, fuck, if I can get more shows under my belt, it can attract more people and then I can get more interactions. And then, it just, everybody will know who I am. Is it kind of like that for you?
it's, yeah, kind of. It's like, I had that live show or whatever, but then I'm like, my sports fandom isn't getting tickled during this. I can't do it. I need a sports show. So I contacted my best buddy. I'm like, hey, let's do a sports show. And then so we did that. And then that kind of faded out. Then I went back to doing a live show again, which was the sports. So, it was just fun and stuff. I'm like, damn, well, now I still need to tickle my sports urge. So then I went back to doing a sports show. And then I have a baby on the way.
Oh,
So I'm like, I decided that, I need to get some bedtime stories for this little child, because, I don't want to actually have to do that when the baby's actually here. So
mhm.
I made a podcast called Story Time with Stinky Dad, in which I tell short children's stories for toddlers.
Word. So is it like existing stories or just stuff you're making up?
I make the stories up. They're kind of based off our horror of a cat who's now pregnant. And I'm not sure how I'm supposed to tell a bunch of toddlers that our cat's a whore. But so the stories are based on a cat, but that's kind of on hold right now because I don't know how to tell a bunch of toddlers the cat's a whore.
Mhm.
I was thinking that maybe I would just throw it in. And it's like, the cat Daisy's going to be having babies. She's a hoe. And just wait for all the angry emails from parents asking why their 3-year-old's wondering what a hoe is. It's a
Yeah.
garden tool, sweetie. It's a
Well, see,
garden tool.
this is my thoughts on things like that. You as a parent, it's your job 24/7 to sift through that stuff or whatnot. So you need to be listening to the podcast first before you let the kid just wander off and listen to it by themselves.
That's what I was thinking. And actually, with the descriptions for that one, I actually say hello, parents, in the description because I'm like, there's no way this toddler that's listening to this is going to be reading that description. So I might as well make it for the parents.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, oh, these kids can't be listening to this rap music and all kinds of stuff and do all this stuff. It incites violence and yada yada yada. I said, well, you're there. Why don't you filter through the shit that they listen to so you won't have this problem?
Yeah, instead of like just handing your phone over to the kid on YouTube and say, go ham, maybe check in on what they're listening to once in a while. I know I had to put a stop to one of my kid's YouTube things. So he came back and he was doing this like rubbing his finger gesture, and he's like
Oh yeah.
on the face, and like he just thought it was hilarious. No idea what the context was. Like, no, you can't do that. I was like, you need to stop watching whatever you're watching because that's not appropriate.
Yeah. And then, I have a younger child as well. I got two older ones. It's just with the young one, she's immersed in that YouTube life and whatnot. So I had to kind of pop my head in there every now and then, be like, what the hell are you watching?
Yeah,
And
for sure.
I was sitting there for a moment or whatever and be like, all right, this seems all right. And then I leave.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so damn. So within the past 2 year span or whatever, you had a kid.
No, the kid's on the way. Like it's due,
Oh,
I
okay.
think, beginning of February. So I already have one. He's 10 now, and he has his own podcast where he goes live on Podbean and talks to the folks, and makes me feel bad because he gets more in gifts than I do. But it is what it is. The cute factor is a moneymaker.
Yeah. I've been thinking about the same thing with my kid because, like I said, she's entrenched in that YouTube lifestyle or whatever. She has the YouTube speak of like, "Hey guys, what's going
Oh
on,
yeah.
guys?"
Yeah, yeah. Same with my kid. He's got that little like showman personality that he's got from watching all his YouTube videos with the GTA Twitch streamers and the Minecraft guys and whatnot.
So, have you seen the movie Free Guy yet?
I have not.
So yeah, I took the young one to go see Free Guy or whatever, just me and her, just go hang out and shit. And they had people that had popular presence on YouTube and whatnot. So I
Yeah,
didn't know who the hell none of these people were. I thought it was just like made up for the movie. And she seen these people and she was like, "Oh, that's such and such. Oh, that's such and such. Such." I was like, never underestimate the power of YouTube.
yeah. No kidding. I'm guessing she does not follow you on YouTube though. I'm guessing you're one person she's not following.
Oh no. And
No, couldn't give a crap less.
and
Eh?
see, and the thing about it is like she knows I have a potty mouth. It's
Yeah,
nothing that I don't restrain myself around my kids. Either my older two know, because I mean my older two are like damn near 21 and 19. So I mean they got a lot of that. But I mean, I don't, hold back from
yeah,
my kid. I mean, I curse and everything. But I explained to her, I was like, hey, I'm older than you. I've been around a
yeah,
while. I have certain liberties that you as a child don't. And it's like, but I am not naive to where when you're out of my sight and you're with your friends, that you're going to talk to your friends differently than what you talk to me and your mom here in this house. But what I will
yeah.
say to you is when you're in the presence of an adult or whatever, or somebody in a, authoritative position, you watch your freaking mouth, you know?
Yeah, it's that whole be respectful. I mean, like I hear my kid talk to his friends on his game, and I'm like, he's totally saying stuff he shouldn't be, but whatever. He's
Mhm.
playing with his game. It's not like I'm completely
Mhm.
dumb and don't realize that the kid's going to end up swearing at some point.
Yeah. It's just like, I mean, I say I curse or whatever, but it's not like it's a part of my everyday language in the house around her. But like, she know when I'm pissed, pretty much.
Yeah, you got to throw in those words that they're not allowed to say just for emphasis.
Yes.
And it's like I'm really mad at you right now. That may not work, but if you throw an F word in the middle, they get the point.
Hmm. Or sometimes, we haven't got to that point yet to where like I haven't thrown out the "I'm disappointed" line. Because it's like, as a parent, you always getting mad and they always seeing you flip your shit and, just the curse words and all kinds of stuff. But if they do something like bad and you just come in there calm, be like, "I'm disappointed in you." And they just like,
Oh yeah,
"Oh,
yeah. It's the
Father,
old
why? Why have
the
you
I'm
forsaken
disappointed.
me?"
The I'm disappointed is the scariest. Is that two words or is that three words? I
Mhm.
am. I guess that's three words, two or three, depending if you put the hyphen in there or
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, those are the scariest words as a child. Is the very calm, quiet. I'm disappointed in you,
Mhm.
and you're like, oh shit, oh shit, oh crap, oh no, I'm in trouble. Oh boy.
Yeah. It's just like you let them stew in their room and they don't just like,
Yeah. My kid, like my kid's 10, and like he still will fold on two when you do like the I'll give you till three. He still hasn't never in his life he still hasn't hit three. The fear of what comes after three is too much for him. He's like, no, I don't want to find out.
Nah, and that's another thing too. I've seen that in public with other parents. I've seen it on television and whatnot. But ha- I don't know how I would react if I ever got to three.
Yeah, right. Like I'm in the same position. I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do after three. Like I don't have a plan. I'm just hoping he's gonna cave after two because I don't know what happens after three either. We haven't
Yeah,
got there.
it's just like one, two, two and a half.
Two and three quarters, please don't make me get to three because I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Hmm. Yeah. Whew, boy, I don't know. I never want to be in that situation or whatever.
Me either. Me either. I'm just glad that he's too scared of what comes after three that he hasn't get there. But
Mhm.
I'm
So,
thinking that will change soon. Once he thinks he can kick my butt at more than video games.
so like, I mean, what even brought that on to like for you to even think of, putting the kid out there in front of the microphone and letting him do his thing?
Uh,
It's a guy,
well,
right, boy, son?
yeah, it's his son. Yeah,
All
his
right.
name's Cameron. His podcast is
Hey,
Conversations
that's
with
my oldest
Cameron.
child name is Cameron.
Oh, nice.
Cameron
Well,
with a K.
Oh, his is a C, so they're a little different. There's no K. But anyway, well, actually, I was doing like this pretend ad, and I wanted him to be a part of it because I think it was Stackable Kids Huts is what I called it, and it was
Whoa,
basically
whoa,
dog
whoa.
kennel.
All right, you're explaining it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm explaining. Don't worry. So what the idea was, it's like, is your house too small? Do you need more space for your kids? Presenting Stackable Kids Huts, personalized huts for your kids, where you can save space and stack them one up on top of each other. And it was basically like this, like BS, like dog kennel for kids thing, like just totally ridiculous. But I wanted him to like record this, like saying how much he disliked the idea and how stupid it was. And so he did that once. Next thing you know, he wanted to have his own podcast. So that's where it started.
Word, word.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I could dig that, and I would fully endorse your stackable kid huts.
Yes, yes. I feel like there's a lot of child welfare places that may not support it, but I feel parents are like, damn right. If I could like separate them and keep them on bay, great.
It's like get in your hut.
Yeah. Get in your hut, boy.
Yeah, just
But
like
Dad, I don't want the top hut tonight.
yeah, well, that's stackable. You can put them down and put his on top.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like I was dealing with the dog the other day. I was like, "Go to your house," and he'd be like, "Okay," and you just
Yeah. Oh, fine.
waddle on upstairs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's been 2 years or so now, into your experience with podcasting and whatnot.
Yes.
You're branching out, doing your multiple, ventures in sporting and, the kids' books, and your kids got a podcast. What are your impressions of podcasting and just everything surrounding it so far?
Well, I mean, I liked it when I first met you, and now it's just more of an expensive hobby that I'm even more
Yes.
addicted to. I mean, now it's like I can't look at my phone without going, ooh, I should talk about that. It's like you pick up your phone and you click over and you see a headline. It's like, ooh, content, ooh, content,
Yeah.
ooh, content.
That remind me of that Family Guy episode. Ooh, a piece of candy. Ooh, a piece of candy.
Yeah. It's basically what it is. At this point in my podcast life, I look at the news and everything that just screams content. It's like, ooh, how can I make fun of this? Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Yeah.
It's like
So, I mean,
constant dopamine hits.
yeah, so it's been weird over the past couple of years with the COVID epidemic and all that stuff, or pandemic, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Did it have any kind of like a dampening effect on plans that you may have had for your podcast? Because I know for me,
Uh,
prior to, I started to go out on the road and go to conventions and things like that,
yes.
and I had a big schedule for 2020, but put the brakes on because of the
Yeah.
shit that was going down. So, have you experienced anything like that? Because you kind of
Uh,
started like in the middle of it almost.
when I started podcasting, like COVID was in China. Like it had just started in China. By the time I was doing a live cast, like it just got to America. So like, when I listened back, if like I ever went back and listened to my old content, it's basically like a day by day, like what was happening with COVID-19 up till like the world shut down, and then a little bit into it before we shut down because it just got old.
Mhm.
You only spend so many hours a day talking about COVID.
Yeah, it's just like most of the time it's like fuck.
It's like everybody's at home drinking whiskey and like doing whatever. It's like nobody's life was very interesting. Our lives weren't very interesting. Eventually, it just went south because what the hell are you going to talk about? Nobody's done anything for 2 months.
Mhm. And then it was weird too, because like I seen a meme just the other day, and we've been going through the COVID thing for a while, and there's kids that have been born that know nothing but these things that's going on right now currently. So the meme was a kid at the condiments stand. You know how they get the condiments with the pump on there, where you can get the ketchup
Yeah.
and the mustard and all that stuff. And he was sitting there with his mask on his face, with his hand under the spigot for some ketchup, thinking it was hand sanitizer.
That's so true though. I can actually see that. Like, yeah, it's like, oh, that must be hand sanitizer. And I was just thinking, like, there's kids that actually have no idea what another kid's smile looks like.
Yeah, that's crazy too.
Like, you go to kindergarten, like, if your kid started kindergarten, he has no idea what his classmate's mouth looked like, even.
Yes, he doesn't know what poor dental hygiene looks like yet.
Yeah, exactly. He hasn't seen bad teeth yet. That's soon to come. And I guess the kids with bad teeth are just happy that, they can't get made fun of it for it. They have a mask on.
Word. So what was the bug for you? Like what made you want to pull the trigger on this podcasting thing?
Well, for me, I was a big fan of podcasts before. Like I'd always listen to like sports radio out of like Toronto, which is my sports team city. And so I always listened to that. I was like, oh, that'd be like really fun to just get on and talk or whatever. And so then I started and I'm like, oh yeah, this is kind of cool. This is interesting.
Mhm.
And so yeah, it's just kind of taken off from there. And I've got a little more into the nerdy side of things. So I moved from like just going live off my phone to, well, I'm still on my phone now, but
Yeah.
in general speaking, I now have like Audacity and like a legit mic and shit. And, it's a little more professional than it was, I guess you could say.
Okay. None of which that you could break out for my show, huh?
Oh, I didn't know how to. I probably could have. I
Oh
didn't
man,
think of
I'm
that
fucking with you,
though.
man. I'm fucking
Uh,
with you, man.
I should have logged on to. I should have logged on the computer instead of on my phone. But
It's fine. It's fine. But I mean, this is the important part. This is the audio portion of it. So you're good to go. You're coming in loud and clear. We ain't. Nobody
yeah,
would have
yeah,
never known if I wouldn't have said nothing, unless they're
yeah,
watching the video.
yeah. For the people on the YouTube, I'm sorry that I'm like the shadowy presence that looks like he's in witness protection.
Yeah, I might have to
Just a glorious shadow.
I might have to put that effect in here to where you just like.
Yeah, like right after I said that, just the next like 5 minutes is just like witness protection talk.
So, like, you
Oh,
talk about the nerdy side of podcasting and everything like that. I have to ask you because I mean,
yes.
I guess I would be a nerd by proxy or whatever. I don't know.
I love talking
Um,
podcasting.
what are you feeling about the latest Spider-Man trailer? If you've seen that,
Which Spider-Man trailer is that? I've seen way too many Spider-Man things over the last like week. It's probably half of them are real and half of them were just memes based on like the old ones.
oh no, just the latest trailer for the film that'll be coming out here on the 17th of December.
Oh, what was I haven't seen it. Tell me
Oh,
about it.
well, good. I won't even bring it up or whatever because I mean, for me personally, I've only seen it because I went to the movies and I was stuck in
Yeah.
there doing the previews because like in recent years got away from just going seeking out trailers and watching previews because when I find out about a movie, I kind of just want to go in with like no knowledge of what's going on, and so I can be like
Oh yeah.
genuinely surprised about everything when I see it for the first time.
So you're someone that would get seriously angry if Raw was like you recorded Raw on PVR and then you got home, one of your kids is like, "Oh man, did you see the main event?" And you'd be like, "Oh please, oh god, it's ruined. I can't even watch it now."
Well, currently, I don't watch so much of Raw. I mean, if I'm because I was just sitting in here waiting for you to pop up, so I just had it on. I mean, just that's a whole conversation in itself. It's just like that product over there right now isn't
You
really.
you jumped to AEW as
Yes,
for fandom.
yes, I did. Which I
Oh
mean, I keep tabs on the WWE because it was my first experience with professional wrestling and everything growing up and all that stuff. So, and plus, I do a wrestling podcast now to where I have to kind of keep
yeah,
up with with
yeah,
these
for
things and
sure.
whatnot. But if I ain't gotta watch it, I ain't watching it. So to your point is if it was a prime time to wear out, well, let's use AEW as the example. So I got it
Yes.
recorded, I get home, and my kid be like, oh, motherfucker CM Punk did some things. And I would probably like count to three at my child for saying motherfucker CM Punk. But and she's like, yeah, CM Punk did the thing with the stuff, and it was so cool. I would probably not be so much upset. I would probably be astounded by, wow, you watched the whole episode of Dynamite? Cool. That's awesome. And then I would probably never watch the episode again because she told me what happened. And it's just like, if I know what's going to happen, I don't even want to watch it anymore.
I know like I was a big wrestling fan in high school, which I guess is now like 16, 17 years ago. I remember I tune into WWE every now and then, and it seems like nothing's changed. Like it's the same people, and like how in 20 years have none of you guys aged, changed, or anything? And like the storyline's still the same.
Yeah. And that's kind of sad. And that's what people are currently talking about how, it was good when it was old because it was the first of its kind. Now,
Yeah.
I mean, I know we talk about retro culture and everything coming back from being old to being new again or whatever, but that doesn't work in every medium.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm.
You know,
So,
I think WWE at this point is just like a violent soap opera, really.
It was
I
more. It's more soap opera than it is violent because it's just like there's more
Yeah.
talking than there is wrestling.
Well, I actually come to think of it, I actually preferred WCW back in the day for that exact reason, is that I wanted to see like the actual wrestling. I wanted the storyline to be based around the matches, not based on something in the background. Like,
Yeah.
do I care about who got knocked up backstage? Not really. Like, just show me the match.
Yeah. And that's another thing with the age that we live in now, to where we have access to everything and people and all kinds of stuff, to where, you know, the veil has been lifted. We know too much. And
Yeah, yeah.
you know, I don't know, is how do we put on a compelling product such as professional wrestling when everybody knows what's going on behind the scenes, you know?
I know I was skipping at some of the videos you had from the New Texas Professional Wrestling
Yeah,
show you went to.
New Texas
And I
Pro.
was like, I was watching the clips. And I'm like, this is so weird. Watching like wrestling without like the 20,000 screaming fans, and like, you know, you can hear each individual cheer and like a good job from the crowd. I'm like, well, that's just weird. Like, it's not
Yeah.
normally that audible. I'm like, it's so weird watching this. Like, you hear the mats and everything. It's like, wow, it's almost like artwork when you have that smaller crowd. It's less of a presentation, I guess, would be
Yeah.
maybe the word for it.
It's just like is almost like Broadway. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
it's a live performance that you go to see, and the people are just there. And what I like about New Texas Pro and all the other people that run shows and that facility is just like, it's almost a community type aspect or whatever. Because when the wrestlers come there, they know the guy that's in the front row. They know this person here, and it's
yeah.
vice versa and whatnot. You know, they bring gifts, they give them high fives, they talk to them after the show, like, you know, they've been
It's
buddies
like,
for years, and some of them have.
would you suggest it's kind of like the really, really old school wrestling, like before WWE went to TV and like all the like the you know the world televised coverage of WWE, where like the wrestlers literally were on the road, traveling from town to town, putting on shows, and it was kind of like one of those like that's your idol that you grew up watching. You know, it's not some guy that your parents are putting their hands over their kids' eyes, going, "Oh, you can't see that."
Yeah. Well, like with these independent shows, man, I just like, you get it all, because there was a little kid there. He could have been no more than maybe 7 or 8 years old, little guy, and he was there, and he knew everybody's name that came out from the curtain. And then
Wow.
he had signs up for his favorite wrestler and everything. And, you know, they would come around the ring and they would see him with his sign. They give him a fist bump or a high five or whatever. And it
Oh
was just
yeah.
like, wow, this is fucking crazy. And then, and it's funny because he's almost like a anti-fan in a way. Because like, all right,
Oh.
the champion comes out. So normally, you know, you're the champion, you're the good guy. Everybody cheer for the champ. But the kid was cheering for the other person.
Oh, he loved his underdogs.
Yeah, so I enjoyed that. I like seeing stuff like that. And that little kid is full of sugar and all kinds of other things, because they had from another show, I guess a couple nights prior, they had the steel cage that they used like up against the
Yeah.
wall in the back of the arena, and the kid was climbing on the cage. I was like, where's your parent?
The kid got dropped off at the wrestling show and parents went to the bar next door or something.
Like, no, I just hear somebody from across the room, 1, 2.
Yeah.
Kid just jump off the cage.
Yeah. There's a flying starfish onto his mom.
Yeah, but it's great. It's just like, and then I help out with the show sometimes. So like, I'll get there extra early and everything while they're training and setting up and doing stuff. And then I guess because I'm there helping or doing some things, you know, sometimes, you know, they think I'm somebody of importance because I'm a fairly new face there. So, you know, people scout. This is kind of like sports, is, you know, they're scouting the rookie pitcher and all that stuff and everything. So, you know, you don't know who's in the crowd watching. So people come introduce themselves and shake my hand, and some of the ladies give me hugs, and I'm just like, I don't know what's going on right now, but I'm not opposed to it.
And that's where you hand him a little card with a link to the website saying, "Hey, I'm a podcaster
Yeah.
and I'd be happy to talk to you."
But you know what? I've been doing this for going on, 5-6 years or whatever. And it's just like, you think I would be like that, but I'm really not. You know, I'll get out there with,
There's a level of shame about it, isn't there? I feel like when you're going out trying to find a podcast guest, by the time you actually get around to asking if you're not their buddy, it's like you had to like really work your way up to it. I mean, there's a good chance that you probably drank like 6 or 7 drinks just to take the shame out of it before you
Yeah.
asked. And then like you don't want to look to see what they said because you're worried. It's like, oh God, did they block me?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's like a guilt or a shame thing or whatever, but it's more like, they are people just like you and me and everything. And they do
Yeah.
this thing that I thoroughly enjoy. And it's just like, I don't know. It's just like, they come in there, they beat themselves up and over, and here I come sliding in. Hey, you want to do a podcast or whatever? It's just like, I don't know. I just don't feel right about doing shit like that.
I have to ask though. So that guy on Twitter, that like the professional wrestler, says, "Do not DM me for a podcast." Did you DM him?
No, I did not.
Oh,
Which one
I
was
was
that
like,
anyway? I forgot.
I don't remember who it was, but it was like, can't remember who the wrestler was. So like,
Oh
I
yeah,
forget.
Aaron Rex. That's the dude that used to be Damian Sandow.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, so yeah, that shows how much you were into wrestling. Because
I,
he was a
I,
big thing a
I,
couple years back. So I mean,
I fully admitted that I was into wrestling in like the early 2000s.
yeah, WC Dubs. But like, I don't know, because I've had, because of that show, the New Texas Pro Wrestling.
Yeah.
I sent a inquiry out to a professional wrestler, seeing if I can get him on my podcast. And at one point in time, he said yes, but I never heard from him again, which is understandable because he's actually on TV and touring and doing things. So I can understand that, not
Yeah.
hearing back from him. But he wound up popping up at one of the New Texas Pro shows. So I was like, hey, you remember that time that we talked and you said you wanted to do the podcast or whatever? And then he's like, he said, you still want to do it? I was like, yes, I do. And he gave me his like no shit telephone number.
Oh,
I
crazy.
put it in my phone. And then a week or so passed and I hit him up on his phone and he said he couldn't do it right now, but he was coming back to do another New Texas Pro show. And if I could be there, we could do something before the show or after the show. And I was like,
Cool.
yeah, but I couldn't go because I had to work. And then later on, after that, he also made the same tweet that guy did. He's like, hey, don't ask me to be on your podcast. And I was like, oh, fuck. And then I tweeted him back. I was like, so I guess this is why you never answered me back, right?
So, yeah. I imagine that with how many wrestling podcasts are out there, he probably gets asked a lot.
Yeah. And then like his point was like, I'm tired of going on these shows, asking me the same questions and daggone, on some of these podcasts that don't even get a lot of listens or views and all kinds of stuff like that. He's like, don't ask me to be on your podcast. So I was like, fuck, he didn't even give me a chance.
Shit, you didn't even ask how many downloads I get. I'm much better than these guys.
Yeah. And then I'm like, it's obvious that you never listened to my show.
Yeah.
But, I look at his number every now and then. I was like, should I text or call this motherfucker? And then I'll just be like, fuck it. I mean,
just send him a picture of boobs and he probably will respond to that because, it's a guy and, it's a boob pic. He won't remember what the number is.
Yeah. And then I'm just
who's this random guy?
Yeah, I'm just always like, I'm under the impression of just like, if it's meant to happen, it'll happen. I'm not going to force the issue or whatever. And I'm not going to chase a motherfucker either.
Who's your top 3 wrestlers that if you could like snap your fingers and have on your podcast tomorrow, what's your top 3?
Oh, Jonathan Gresham.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe his wife, but that doesn't count. I mean, she is a wrestler, but I don't know. Jonathan Gresham, maybe. It's so many that's running through my mind right now, but Jonathan Gresham is definitely number one at the top of the list and everything. And he just he's launching his own wrestling promotion here pretty soon.
Interesting.
And I reached out, but to no avail. He's probably busy launching this company that's coming up here in the next 2 months or so. So I mean, understandable.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I can easily just say The Rock, but I mean, is he really
everybody wants The Rock anymore? I think he's more Dwayne Johnson at this point. I think like The Rock's like an add-on feature to him at this
Yeah.
point.
It's DLC for Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah. He's distanced himself from the wrestling persona enough. I don't think anybody's asking what the bottom line is anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but if I
Oh
pick
wait, I was the wrong wrestler. I was Stone Cold.
yeah, if I pick anybody, it would probably be the guys that are doing good right now on the independents. I mean, I would love to maybe have an AJ Styles or somebody on here,
That'd be a sick pod.
or freaking, I don't know, just whoever, in any one combination of the Young Bucks or anything like that. That would be pretty cool. But I would probably pick Jonathan Gresham. I'm thinking of another guy, AJ Gray, and just for the fuck of it, I don't know if I could pull it off or whatever, because I don't know literally what we would talk about. Look up a guy named Nick Gage.
Nick Gage.
Yes, look him up. I mean, not
I
right
can't.
now.
I'm on my phone.
Yeah, not right now. But it's like whenever you get the time, look up a professional wrestler named Nick Gage. Because with these podcasts, I try to challenge myself. Because it's just so many different people, so many personalities out there in the world or whatever. And it's just like you can't talk to everybody the same. So it's just like I would try to pick somebody that I would perceive would be kind of difficult for me to relate with and try to, see what I can pull out of that. To my failure or, whatever. But I want to try.
Sometimes, I mean, like, as a podcaster, sometimes you listen to a podcast and you're like, "Oh my god, the guest is giving absolutely nothing to work with here." I'm just like, "Oh my god!" Like, I have to give it to the host here for trying to string this thing along because he's getting nothing.
Yeah, I've learned that in episode 11, to where I had a guy that I worked with because I was still in the military when I started the show, so I was picking people that I worked with that had side hustles and stuff outside of work, because I knew a guy that I worked with. He was trying to launch a clothing line. He was in a motorcycle club, and he a DJ. He did all kinds of shit after working hours. So I was like, oh man, we'll have plenty of shit to talk about. So I bring my equipment to his house. I set it up and everything, and we get to talking. I was like, hey man, so what you think about this? Oh, it's cool.
Yeah, it's like, care to span on that,
and
there,
it's
sir?
cool because
yeah, it's like, don't make me first grade teacher you. Please expand on your thought.
Mm-hmm. And then since then, he just got out of the military not too long ago. Started doing security. Then eventually he became a weapons instructor. Then he opened up a weapons store. He sells weapons and things, and he does firearm instruction. So I got him back on many years later to kind of promote his business and everything. And I told him the same thing that I told you. And I was like, man, I remember the first time you got on here and you just like, whatever. You just didn't know how to talk. He's like, I'm glad you said something, because I didn't know what we was going to talk about today either.
I was a little worried like 3 hours ago. I'm like, oh crap, I'm doing that podcast with Rob. I'm like, I don't even know what we're going to talk about. I'm like, we'll figure it out. Yes. And I realized it was random. I'm like, chances are it's just going to go wherever it goes, and that's what it is.
Yes. And tips and anything that I could ever give to somebody. If you're a guest on someone else's show or whatever, I mean, shit, make them a part of their own show too. I mean, if you got any questions or queries or anything that, stick out in your mind, bring that shit up. It's another piece of the conversation and whatnot. It's a two-way street. I want people to know about you, and, you just, maybe there's some things you want to know too. You know what I mean?
To be fair, this is my first real podcast hit besides like my bum calls on Podbean Lives. This is my first true podcast hit.
Word. So
I didn't know what I was doing going into this either. I was just like, I'll play it by ear.
Yeah.
It can't be the worst thing in the world.
No. Put some horns on it. Pew, pew, pew. Yeah. It's just like, I love being one main reason I love being a guest on other people's show is because I ain't got to edit shit.
I know. I was thinking that myself. I'm like, it's going to be so nice after this done. I can just walk away from it and wait for the tweet to go out about it.
Yeah. I just show up, be me or whatever version of me they need me to be, I guess, and then leave.
Yeah, I don't feel a need to put on a show for you per se. I mean, it's a show. It's a 3-hour show right here on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. But I can just be Glenn a B. I don't have to try and be someone else for this show.
Mhm. So, I mean, 2 years in for you and whatnot. I mean, what other goals do you got moving forward? Or you got any plans in your head or any ideas and whatnot?
Well, I want to see where this sports thing goes. So I called this show 5 minutes for mostly a hockey pod. That's what I
Mhm.
called it. And so it's basically I'm like 5 days a week. I'm jumping on just to talk hockey and whatever catches my mind for whatever. And then
Mhm.
I'm hoping to have merch at some point.
Mhm.
But for the most part, I just kind of play it day by day. I want to turn it into a business, but I'm having issues figuring out how.
Oh, so you're trying to secure a LLC and all kinds of stuff like.
Yes, but I think it's a little different in Canada as I am,
Okay.
Canadian and whatnot. I think it's a little bit different, and so far I've found out like a lot of good things about it, but I haven't found out exactly where to go and how to do it.
Word. So, I mean, I would be able to help you out, but I don't know the stuff about Canada. So that's
Yeah, yeah,
that's kind of where our worlds collide. Because
yeah,
I've done the same thing. It's just like you put all kinds of money into this hobby or
yeah,
whatever, and you want some of them dividends back. So I formed a LLC for this, and I folded all the shit into here, and I filed the shit on my taxes.
yeah, yeah. How does that work? So, as like, I don't know if your podcast does make money or not. I don't know if you want to actually divulge that information,
Yeah,
but like, it doesn't. So, it's just basically works as a tax write off for you.
yeah,
You
pretty
just
much.
write
So
off the hosting fees and whatever else you put into it.
yeah, so anything that I pay for um anything that I pay for in damn, I don't know what I was gonna say. Anything that I pay for the podcast, I save my receipts. I got my expenditure report or everything that I spent and everything. Turn it in with my taxes, and they just I either get something back or I don't. But it's all
Yeah.
accounted for.
Well, that's good. Well, at least you know exactly how much you're spending too. I mean, having that expenditure chart probably works whether it's a business or not, because at least you can, even the wife says you're spending too much on it, you can go, no, I'm not. I'm on budget.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the expenditure chart.
Hmm. It's just like if I go anywhere in 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 service of this podcast, it's just like, let me get that receipt, player.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Meals, gas, all that shit. Just give me the receipt. Thank you.
They don't provide that for you when you do appearances and whatnot. They don't provide a meal for you. They still make you pay for that.
Yeah, I mean, because it's just not like they're not. It's some places if you go to conventions, obviously you pay the vendor for your food and whatnot. But there's
Yeah,
been some places that I've been to where like somebody fronted me a plate, and I was like, all right, I'm cool with this.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yes, I'll take all the free foods that I can get.
Yeah, I always tell people it's like, hey, listen to my podcast. It's free. I mean, you can't beat it. Like, worst case scenario, you're gonna waste an hour of your life and that you won't get back, but you won't have wasted any money on it.
Yeah. And then, I can remember earlier on, I got business cards and stuff printed out for the show. And what I would do is I would get a whole stack of the cards, and I would go into Walmart and I would just sporadically place them throughout the store. I would put them in like pockets of button up shirts and stuff. And I would put them in the between the bread aisle and in the freezer at the checkout counter and all kinds of shit. And then I had stickers too. I would stick the stickers on all kind of shit just because.
Do you know if anyone listened to your podcast based on finding a 3 hour show card in their Walmart tuxedo pocket?
Nobody has ever told me, but I would like to think so in my mind that it's happened.
Yeah, some person's like, oh, cool. I wonder what this is.
Yeah, I know I've walked
Check it
around
out.
with my show logo on a shirt or whatever, and a lady rolled by me in a motorized scooter at the Walmart, and she's like, "Is that your podcast?" I was like, "Well, yes, it is." She's like, "Oh," and she's like, "Can I take a picture of your shirt?" I was like, "Yeah." And she took a picture of my shirt. Hopefully, she's still listening, or she chimed in and checked it out. But that was pretty cool.
The fact that the lady in the motorized scooter knew what a podcast was actually probably the
Exactly.
shocking part of that conversation.
That
What? You know
yeah,
what a podcast is, ma'am?
that's the most shocking thing that it's just like it blew my freaking mind. Also, like here in Houston, I think for at least 2 years, a whole bunch of the local podcasters, we got together and did this thing called the Houston Podcast Fest. It was just pretty much the little circle of local podcasters or whatever. We all got together at a place and we just told people that we were going to be there. If you wanted to come hang out, come hang out. We had food and drink and everything. Just everybody come, mingle, network, and all kinds of shit. So there had an older group of ladies that showed up, and we didn't know if they were podcasters or not, but they came in because one of the shows in the little group did like the true crime horror shit or whatever. So they was real into that. So they showed up because they showed up. And it was like older ladies that was there coming to see about these podcasts. And I was just like, it was just kind of like the lady in the scooter or whatever. I was like, wow, I didn't know people listen to podcasts.
I know my girlfriend, my current girlfriend right now, and like my kid's mother, she's not really like a massive podcast person, but she will spend hours on YouTube with the true crime stuff. I don't know what it is about women in true crime. They're weird like that. But they eat that shit up.
Yeah, and if you get a woman that does the true crime show, I mean, that's a whole another kettle.
Yeah, I mean, everyone is a female-hosted true crime show on YouTube. I'm just like, what is with these women and like all about their like crimes of whatever? It's like weird.
And so since you've been a fan of podcasting and you're now immersed in the world of podcasting or whatever, what do you think about the state of podcasting as it is? What I mean by that is just like when I first started, there was like hundreds of thousands of podcasts. Now there are literally millions of podcasts. And then we see these lucrative deals with certain celebrities and Spotify and other major platforms and whatnot. So, I mean, just what are your overall thoughts about podcasting as a whole?
Well, I mean, I came into it pretty naive, thinking that it wouldn't be that difficult to like, get 1,000 downloads on an episode. Like, oh, that's easy, no problem. 2 years into it, I'm realizing that I should really have been as happy with 100, because that's probably as much as it goes, that's the size it goes. But it's always going to be there. I think like I don't really care to listen to like the NBC podcasts or CNN podcasts. Like it's not my thing. I'm like, whatever. And like I like listening to other people's shows, like checking out random ramblings with Rob. A tongue twister and a good listen is always fun.
I did it like that on purpose.
I know. I actually, when I was going back to listen to my call-in, just as a reminder of what random ramblings with Rob is, and you said, I love going on other people's show because they get their tongue tied on. And I'm like, oh, I can say it no problem. In my head, I'm saying it, then I go say it out loud and get my tongue tied.
I forgot about my logo up here in the corner, but oh well. We only an hour.
Oh, you forgot the logo.
Whatever.
Yeah, 48 minutes, and we're finally telling people what the show is.
Yes, I mean it's not like it's not in the description or anywhere around it, right? Or I didn't.
Or the show.
Yeah, or I didn't give this long, lengthy-ass intro at the beginning.
Oh, it wasn't that long. I mean, you could have been more like our rich podcaster Joe Rogan and do 17-minute intros of nothing.
Word, man. I have never listened to that man's show. I mean, I've seen clips on the internet or anything like that, but I have never tuned in to his feed or searched it to download it to listen to it. Never.
I did before I ever got into podcasting, and literally I'd have to like be tapping like the past 30 seconds. And finally I just learned just like scroll past the first 15 minutes because all it is sponsor reads. For 15 minutes, he says hello, and then there's 17 minutes of ads, and then he gets into his show.
Mm-hmm.
Which then there's no ads, which is fine. So you can just know to skip past the first 15 minutes.
And then I can't really be mad at that as well, because like doing this for a while, you figure that unless you are at the top of the show saying, hey, stick around to the end because I got something to say, most people won't do that because they know once you close out, they'll be like, all right, that's it, I'm out of here. Or sometimes they may not even get to the end, so they miss all this pertinent information that you got at the end. So you got to throw it all in the front.
Yeah, front load your ads, because that's when people are actually going to listen to it for your whatever that CPM is or whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't know how that works. So, I mean, I did get myself a sponsor on. Actually, the app was even your suggestion. I asked you how you get the same thing. You're like, hey, check out Smart Post app, and then like I shouted them out, and then snaggled myself a sponsor out of them.
Word. Damn.
Yeah.
Why didn't I think of that?
I don't, because you had hooks, rubs, and spices. You don't need them.
Yeah, you're right. Hooks,
Yeah.
rubs, and spices. Get my
Yes.
mannequin head with my lucha mask.
Nice. That's an epic mask.
That's a La Sombra, who is currently now Andrade El Idolo in AEW, formerly of WWE fame.
Yeah. Seems like everybody's of WWE fame at some point or other. Even the people that were like big stars in like WWE in the 90s, they actually started in WWE, left, went to WCW, came back again.
Yeah. I mean, it is weird because like this whole crop of people that's kind of migrating away from WWE, going to AEW and other places and whatnot, is because they had a whole thing about they were the only show in town for the longest, so they hoarded up all the talent and everything and just kept them under their thumb and didn't do shit with them or whatever. And now, they're starting to
Can't do
release them
that.
and let them go, and it is just like, all right, they're flourishing somewhere else. And now it's like, oh, I'm kicking myself in the ass because I had this guy and I could have did stuff with him, but fuck me because I want to do what I want and I listen to
My creative team didn't see the potential in this guy, and now look where he is. He's losing us millions by sending all our customers elsewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, and back to the original topic, which is podcasting. I think for independent podcasters, there's apps such as Good Pods now, which are kind of like their algorithm is set up to make it like, more beneficial for the small guy. Their whole premise, their whole algorithm is set up for shares and reviews and whatnot, and less about the actual downloads. So like all of a sudden you can be on like the independent Good Pods charts on 3 people listening because you shared your show in there. And so that's kind of where it is I think we're going to see more apps copycat that idea and set it up more to where it helps like guys like you and me who, are just doing this out of our house, just for fun, work full-time jobs, yada, yada, yada. And less favoring like Conan O'Brien, who obviously needs more money to do his podcast because he doesn't have enough already. It's like, really? Come on. Like, you have enough money.
Yeah,
do you need a podcast too?
Yeah, and then like somebody broke it down to me in a way that made me be like, all right, I mean, maybe I'm not as much of an asshole as I thought I was. It's just like I used to hate them bastards, like Joe Rogan, Conan O'Brien, all those people. It was like they're coming into my space and they're going taking the attention away from us, all the independent podcasters and everything. But I had a guest on, I think it was Al Mega or whatever, and he was like, "Nah, man, you can't look at it like that because say you and star such and such do the same type of podcast. People will go listen to his show and try to find other shows that are like his, and yours is something like his. So it's bringing attention to your genre,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So I was like, all right, that makes sense. I get it now, but I still don't like it.
Oh, it's I find it more annoying when you see celebrities that like just start now. So like, we are how many years, 6 and 2 years into podcasting. Then we'll see like, Tom Cruise, for just the random name, decides to start a podcast and his first episode gets like 100,000 downloads. And you're like, oh, come on, man. Come on. Why?
It's just simply we're not Tom Cruise.
We're not Tom Cruise. We don't have millions and millions of fans.
Yeah. But we'll get there one day. I mean,
one day.
Just in
I'm just going to ride Rob's coattails.
Yeah, just in wrestling terms or whatever, most professional wrestlers don't really hit the big time until they're like past 10 years in. Yeah,
that's a good point.
So I mean, I don't know. It's longevity and consistency. That's all this is right now. It's the long race, the slow race.
Yeah. It's a very slow race in podcasting.
Yeah,
very, very slow.
But I am confident that great things will come from this journey that we're taking right now, whether it not even be in podcasting, but because of podcasting. So, I mean, just gotta wait and see.
I know, like, I also have way more friends that live absolutely nowhere near me just from being in podcasting. Like, all of a sudden, like, I'm friends with a guy in Houston up here in, middle of nowhere, Canada. Friends with a guy in Illinois, nowhere, Canada. Friends with someone in New York, California. It's like, wow, I just all of a sudden have friends all over the world.
I was talking to somebody about that not too long ago, to where it was just like I went to visit a place for the first time or just for something. And I was like posting pictures like, hey, I'm here, I'm doing this thing. And they'll be like, you in my city? Why you didn't say nothing? I was like, oh shit, I forgot you lived here, or I didn't know you lived here. So
Yeah, no kidding, right? I
yeah,
don't
man.
I don't have that type of fan base. I know when my kid was doing a live, he was talking to one of my friends because he gets my friend to co-host because dad's not cool enough to co-host with him. He's got to get one of dad's friends to co-host with him. So dad's in the other room listening in like one of those peasant peoples while he's hosting his podcast with my friend. And next thing you know, he had him convinced that he was going there for Christmas to have a Nerf gun war.
Mm.
Had him convinced. The next day, he's like, "Oh, when are we going to see him?" I'm like, "We're not. Like that was a joke. Sorry, bud."
And then you see the young man tears just.
Oh, he realized pretty quickly. He's like, "Oh yeah, this probably was a joke." Not that he was thinking about it, but then he did a call to action for Nerf guns because I'm like, everybody does their call to action, but I have too much saying myself. I can't do my call to action. I can't just say, "Hey, give me money for a new mic." Can't do it. I'm too shameful. I'm like, oops, my kid's shameless. I'll get him to do it. And I'm like, but he's going to want something out of this. So I'm going to like, okay, I'll just make it funny where he's like, oh, I think we're good. Okay. So where I'm like, you can ask for Nerf guns in it. And I'm going to tell you no, but you can ask for Nerf guns in the video. He's like, all right, he's all down for it. And it turned out that everybody's more interested in sending this 10-year-old Nerf guns than they had any interest in giving me $5 for anything for the podcast.
Yeah. It'd be like that sometimes.
Yeah. You should start using that, Rob. Just get the cutest kid on the day to do a call to action to go to Patreon and sign up for 3 hour shows, Patreon feed.
Well, you know what? I got rid of my Patreon.
Never mind. We will send him somewhere else to give Rob money.
Yeah, it's just like the thing with Patreon or whatever. I mean, people of acclaim, they can have it to where like, hey, if you want to support the show, give me money or whatever. You don't get shit back in return, but my love and respect or some shit or whatever. Some people can do that. Not all of us can do that. And I figure like with the Patreon stuff or whatever, if you're going to do a Patreon, you got to have some incentive to do that or whatnot. To where like, as you were saying, I got a full-time fucking job. And if you've been listening to the past couple of episodes for, over the past couple of months, I've been more at that job than I have been at home. So it's hard for me to come here, try to do, an interview like with you or something, then turn around, do some Patreon shit, then turn around and then got to be up in like 2 hours after that to get up and get ready to go to work and be out for 12 hours, then come back and not play.
It just doesn't work. No.
It doesn't fit into the schedule for me to try to do a lot of extra work. So I just cut the Patreon out altogether.
I know when I first got into podcasting, I was doing the lives and like all my listeners are like, hey, you should get Patreon. You should get Patreon. I'm like, all right, I'll get Patreon. I mean, people want to give me money. That's cool. I'll get Patreon. No, nobody wanted to give me money. They just said you should get it.
Yeah. And that's another thing that you'll run into this game or whatever. It's just like, even with merchandise or whatever, I got an ass load of merchandise. I haven't got anything new in a while, but I have tons and tons of merchandise on my website, randomrob.com. And it's just like, oh man, you should make this shirt or you should do this design or whatever. And I do those things that they say or whatever. I put it up on the website, I advertise it, and not a one moves. So I'm just like,
it's like, oh, come on, man.
So why would you say something like that if you're not going to support? I only did it. It's not like it's really costing me anything because I do a third party. I just come up with the design and they slap it on the shirt and do all the work. But, it's just like the fact that I did put in the time to make the design and, go through all the rigmarole of setting up a shop and a storefront and all this other bullshit. And they don't want to buy it.
So you have the merch store, but it's not exactly the busiest store in the world.
Nah. And then I haven't plugged it in a long time. It's just like, if you're going to support, you're going to support. I mean, as much as we would love to make money off of this shit, I would love to make some money off of shit. I only want to make enough money for the show to sustain itself.
Yeah.
I mean, profit, it would be a bonus, but the goal has always been for the show to sustain itself.
And I mean, as long as you're having fun doing it, I don't think any
And
of us in podcasting, as long as we're having fun, I don't think we care about the money. I mean,
yeah,
it's nice, it's cool, like
oh,
thank
I would
you,
love it,
but
but
it's not crucial to my continuing.
yeah, I mean, I started this with no intention of somebody giving me money. I started this because it's something that I wanted to do, and it grew from a hobby to like almost a part of my life and shit. So
Was making money in podcasting even like something people were doing back when you started? Like 6 years ago, you said there's only like 100,000 podcasts on the Apple feed. And now I think last time I heard there was north of 3 million podcasts just on Apple Podcasts. That's not even
yeah,
including Spotify with
so I
all the
mean,
ones that are.
the only people that I can recall that was making money or whatever was just like freaking Kevin Smith and the Joe Rogan and all those guys or whatever.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people started making those big money deals later on after that or whatever. They locked Joe Rogan down for $100 million. So it's just like, wow. I mean, can I get somebody to buy a T-shirt for $20? you know?
I mean, I'm pretty sure if anyone came to you tomorrow and said, I'll give you $50,000, quit your job, and I'll pay you $50,000 a year to do your podcast, you'd probably be like, damn right, homie, I'll do this 5 days a week.
Shit. My thing would be, since I've been doing it the way that I've been doing it for so long, is just like, what would I do 5 days a week?
Yeah. Well, I
That,
know,
that,
like,
yeah, I
for
mean
me, I,
that's like my only thing or whatever. Is just, and that's another thing about taking money or whatever, because it's like, if somebody gives you money, you got to produce. You
yeah,
know,
exactly. Now
so
you're
it's
getting
just
paid for it.
like even right now for free, it's like I don't even know what I could do 5 days a week off the top of my head for free, let alone somebody giving me money to do it.
That's
But
true.
I mean, it would be different because, like what you're saying, somebody say I'll give you $50,000 a year or whatever. I mean, that wouldn't be too bad because I can stay home and then I could go places too and do some stuff. I mean, I would have more time to let the creative juices flow than rather than, all right, I need to hurry up and cut this shit here because I gotta go to sleep, get my clothes ready, get ready for work tomorrow and pay this
Yeah.
bill and do all this other shit. I mean, all those things would be further away and it would just, leave me more space to create and think about shit or whatever. But,
Yeah,
you know,
it's the problem when you're your own producer, editor, marketing, and everything. You know, when you got like 23 job titles for the one podcast, it makes it hard to keep one hat on for any length of time.
yeah. So am I going to pay $150 in Google ads, or I'm going to take the same $150 and buy groceries for my house and some school stuff for my kid? Yeah, I'm going to take care of
Yeah,
my
right.
family first,
Yeah, yeah. It's like Google Ads. I've never even bought a Google ad before. I don't know. Do they work?
I mean,
Have you tried it?
I've got a voucher for one once, and then I tried it out or whatever. I mean, I guess I got some increase, but I mean, there's nothing I was really paying attention to because I mean, I'll check the numbers every now and then. You know, the only time I might check the numbers is like, if you have Podbean, so you go in there, you
Yeah.
upload your episode or whatever, and I mean, they slap you in the face with it. So I mean, I see it at least once a week, or sometimes I just kind of hurry up and tap past it or whatever. So I was like, I get the shit on my face.
I know. Sometimes the numbers can get like a little too. You get focused on it a little too much, and the fun goes away almost in some
Yeah,
sense.
exactly. Because I know for a point in time, I was like, my shit went way up. Like I was like, why is my shit, you know, climbing like this? I mean, I wouldn't complain about it. I was like, but what am I doing? What's happening? And then, it just dropped back down to normal. And then it went back up again, stayed for a little while. Then it went back to, normal stuff. And I was just like, what the fuck was happening? What was I doing? But,
What someone told me once was someone that has their own hosting platform is sometimes like you'll just like get lucky that like a whole bunch of people like search random
mhm.
for a week, and so like a whole bunch of people just happen to search that, and all of a sudden you're featuring on some little podcast platform and a whole bunch of downloads happen.
Mhm.
I
And
know when I
yeah,
my
yeah, I
I
think that
did.
happened at one time too, to where like I started registering my podcast on different streaming platforms and shit or whatever. That might have caused the spike to go up because it's new people on this platform, just like, oh, it's a thing here.
Yeah, I just always have counted that to like just like getting lucky almost to a point. It's just like, yeah. Because I know I had one episode that like had like 600 downloads more than every other episode, and I'm like, what is going on? And then I went and looked at it, and like that episode had like 500 downloads in Ireland. I'm like, what the hell is going on in Ireland? Why is this so popular? Nothing exciting happened in this one particular episode. There was nothing to it, but for whatever reason, 800 people in Ireland loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Or one guy listened to it over and over and over again every day for several months, which is very weird.
Yeah, because I do pretty good in Canada.
Yeah? People in Canada like you? Must be that shiny head.
Must be. I mean, it's a thing.
That's why I'm popular in Canada, too.
They can see themselves in my reflection.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I still enjoy it. So that's why I'm always hesitant or whatever to take a break or whatever, because I've been doing this show consistently the whole time since I started. I never took a break, never took a hiatus, never skipped a week. I've put out an episode once a week for this whole time. And it's just like, if anything, it's just like to break the routine, it would probably kill me. I don't know what the hell would go on if I stopped.
You don't even have one specific recording day either, is it? It's just like you have a specific release date, but I think you record whenever, eh?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just whenever you got time.
Yeah, pretty much. Because there was a point in time before I got busy at work to where I was scheduling like 3 recordings a week. So that's 4 weeks, was 3, 6, 9, 12 recordings a month. So that's 12 weeks worth of content, you know?
Nice.
So it's like you get all those episodes and you just kind of, just feed them out 1 week at a time, and just like you can just chill out and just go do other shit.
I've always felt weird about that. Like I feel like the interviews almost can get put on a date a little too easily when that happens, where like it's released 2 months later. So where like, something could obviously change and all of a sudden the information's wrong. I don't know. I've always had a weird thing about like, how do you do that without like your interview all of a sudden being outdated?
Yeah, it can also go with the things that you talk about or whatever. I mean, if you're speaking of current events, I mean, that can kind of date it and whatnot. Or, you mentioning things that are about to happen that it happened before the release or after the release and shit or some shit. So, I mean, you got stuff like that. But, I mean, that's kind of how I used the Patreon at one point when I did have it, when I would stack up like 10 episodes. And I knew they was going to be coming out 1 week at a time or whatever. So I would like put 3 in the Patreon feed. So you can hear those like right now. And then, the next week I would do another 3 or whatever. So I was kind of doing it that way. And then, it's like, this is extra work. I said, you can just wait.
So basically you were trying to be the Netflix of podcasting on Patreon. You're like, you could wait every week for this to come out, or you can binge listen right now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I would definitely take the binge listen first, I think, most of the time.
Yeah. And that was another thing that you learn in hindsight or whatever. You start a new podcast or whatever, it's always good to record at least 3 to 5 episodes and release them all at once rather than, just drop
Give
one
people a little bit of a catalog first.
Yeah. And then there's other things that I'm trying to do to kind of save on the funds and whatnot. Cause I pay Podbean to host my shit, but I also pay for my website that I can host podcasts from as well. So it's just like, I can just cancel my Podbean and host it all from my website. But then I'll have to daggone change the RSS feed again. And then all this other crap or whatever. It's just like, well, I've been here for years. So why I want to change it now? I was like, but I want to save some money too. So it's just,
you end up spending more money changing it over to save money that you'd probably end up breaking even in the end.
Yeah, I don't know. So,
by the time you change your RSS feed and all that around, it's like you're probably going to spend $100 on it. It's like to save $50.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. My websites are all like very, very, very basic host provided websites because I have no idea how to build a website. And that's like,
Yeah.
It's a what's physics for me basically. It's basically physics. Like you can dumb it down for me, but it's still too complicated.
Word. Well, Mr. Glen B, and with your boy B Rob. So you got the B on the back end. I got my B on the front end. It's about that time, homeboy. It's
All
about time to
right.
shut the door and turn off the lights.
Thanks for
But
having me,
before,
good
but
sir.
yeah, but before you go and everything, let everybody know
Yes.
where they can find you on social media and all the things that you got going on.
All right. All right. So I am Glen B, aka Stinky Dad, because my kid is rude. But anyway, I have 4 podcasts. One is a live improv comedy show on Podbean twice a week called the Glen B Sideshow. And if that is too much for you, I have Fake News with Glen B, which is a parody news podcast where I take real headlines, but I don't bother with the article. I'm just going to make it up as I go. So I fake that one. And then, of course, for the toddlers, because as a upcoming parent of a brand new baby, we need bedtime stories without actually having been in the room. So we have story time with Stinky Dad. What else do I got? Oh, yeah. And if you're into sports and mostly hockey, we got 5 minutes for Mostly a Hockey Pod. And I am on Twitter and Instagram, Stinky Dad 87. I think I'm good.
Word. So, as it is for every guest of the Random Rounds with Rob podcast, the door is always open for you to come back to promote your next big thing or just to shoot the shit.
I like shooting the shit, sir.
Word. And we are